a number of the commenters to your piece, and I discussed it on my radio program as well. It's a great conversation starter. But a lot of them said they were bummed out in agreeing with you. Here's a comment. I'll put it on the screen. I'll read it aloud. This is from the New York Times. Character, honesty, decency, intelligence, democracy, none of these seem to matter in our country when electing a president. I think that pretty much says it all. You would say what to that person?
I'd say, well, first of all, I totally agree with that person. It's very depressing. But if you're doing political strategy, if you have an airplane crash, you got to go back and find out what went wrong. You don't say, well, let's just forget about it and move on. No, was the flap set in the right setting, or was there something that the pilot didn't pay attention to? I don't know, but it is sort of depressing. But, Michael, there's a simple basic rule of politics is voters want an election about them. They don't want an election about you or your opponent. And for too much, we lost that. I lost it myself. We made it about Trump, and we didn't make it about voters. And it's never a good idea. And how could I, at 80 years old, been doing this for 50 years, lapse into that level of stupidity? I got to ask myself. But I think we did. And, let's learn from this. It's a disaster. I agree. It's depressing. But to have an event like this and not learn from it, I think is the biggest mistake we can make.
What's up, y'all? Gerald here, creator of Gospel Chops and your host for this YouTube channel, back with another video. Now, y'all, James Carville is an interesting character to me. I've always enjoyed his political commentary since I've been interested in politics. He's a colorful guy, a Southerner, and you can tell by this video in the beginning that he's a drinker. He likes to throw a couple back, talk his talk, do his thing, but I respect his candor. I respect his honesty when it comes to politics. And I feel like he's the kind of guy I could pull up on and say, okay, well, let's have a drink, sir. You drink whatever that stuff is behind you, and you pour me a cup of coffee. Cream and sugar, please, respectfully. And we can have a little discussion about how we feel about politics. Although I believe that it would differ, my opinion, greatly from his. But I would love to hear him discuss and berate his party, and then talk about and berate the right-wing party, and then let's discuss my unincorporated party in the center, us registered independents who feel like we could go either way depending on the circumstances. Truly independent. Well, I think this is an interesting clip because Mr. Carville is coming to an understanding, like many other Democrats post-election. He's still trying to figure it out. He's scratching his head. He's saying, look, I'm an 80-year-old man, an 80-year-old drinking man based on this video. And when I sit in my favorite chair here and I get sauced up with my favorite sweater on, he supports LSU quite a bit. He'll sit in that chair, he'll drink his drink, and he will ponder the mistakes of the election cycle. And it seems here as we approach January 20th, the inauguration day of the 47th President of the United States, this man is still stuck, y'all. He's still stuck on November 5th. He can't believe it. He can't believe, and I followed him throughout the election cycle, and I felt him on a certain level because he seemed to be trying to separate himself from the Democrat left. He would say, hey, y'all, you're going too far. You're doing too much. Move a little bit back to the center so we can capture the greater of America. They weren't listening. And at a certain point, it seemed like he succumbed to the pressure and started leaning into that left-wing stuff. And here he is, y'all, post-election saying, I can't believe I got sucked into that foolishness. After 50 years in politics, I can't believe I let y'all young dummies convince me that it wasn't about the economy, that it wasn't about the border, that it wasn't about crime and security in this country. I let y'all suck me in to your foolishness after all this time. Well, it's kind of refreshing to hear him say it. But that's why he's one of the guys I feel like I could sit down with him, because he's honest enough to say it. Well, that Democrat Party, y'all, you got some other folks in there who ain't so honest, who've been in politics just as long. But they will tell a lie. They will take a lie to the grave. People like Adam Schiff. Yeah. Yeah. People like Chuck Schumer, who is now the minority leader of the Senate. Yeah, we still got to deal with him, but we ain't got to deal with him much because we got a majority. We're going to blow right past him and ignore him the same way that he and his party ignored all of American security. But this man, this man who is the perfect example of why we need term limits, who spent all this time in the Senate, he came out and Kristen Welker, to her credit, I don't give her much credit. I don't give her credit often, but in this interview, she presented him with his own words and said, hey, bruh, didn't you say something different the other day than what you're saying today? She played the clip, and you know what he said, y'all? He said, no, I ain't never said that. That was never my position. This is the kind of Democrat that is taking the party over the cliff. The old heads. See, y'all young heads is taking them over the cliff in another direction, in another way. But these old heads, just as headstrong as y'all, just as wrong as y'all, but they taking you over a whole different cliff. This man just gonna sit here and lie to you. Old school politician. You gotta respect him for that. At least he hasn't succumbed to this new era of politics. No, it's an old school cat. He said we're gonna do it the old way. He's just gonna lie.
Obviously, there has been a lot of focus on President Biden's role in this. You were obviously in close contact with President Biden well before the public tuned into that debate that ultimately led to him stepping down. I want to play you a little bit of something you said last year. Take a look.
I talk to President Biden, regularly, sometimes several times in a week, or usually several times in a week. His mental acuity is great. It's fine. It's as good as it's been over the years. All this right-wing propaganda that his mental acuity has declined is wrong.
Leader Schumer, what do you say to Americans who feel as though you and other top Democrats misled them about President Biden's mental acuity?
No. Look, we didn't. And let's look at President Biden. He's had an amazing record. The legislation we passed, one of the most significant groups of legislation since Lyndon Johnson's Great Society, putting in 235 judges, a record, and he's a patriot. He's a great guy, and when he stepped down, he did it on his own because he thought it was better not only for the Democratic Party, for America. We should all salute him. We should all salute him.
Do you feel, as we have this conversation today, that President Biden could serve another 4 years had he stayed in the race and potentially won?
Well, I'm not going to speculate. As I said, I think his record is a stellar one, and he'll go down in history as a really outstanding president.
Before I let you go, Leader Schumer, in 2 weeks, you will be the highest ranking Democrat serving in Washington. Do you believe you will be the leader of the Democratic Party?
Look, I think we have a lot of great leaders in our party. We have a great bench of people coming up, and I am really optimistic about the future of the Democratic Party in the future. As I said, there are certain adjustments we have to make. We're going to do those, and I think people are going to realize that the Democratic Party is the party of working families, of working people. We're doing more for them. We're going to show them that some of these Republican things, like tax cuts for the very wealthy, individuals, which were, they did it in 2017 and they lost the election in 2018. They haven't learned, but we're going to hold their feet to the fire when they do things that hurt working people. We're going to stand with the working families of America, and that's going to bode very well for us.
All right.
Is there any question why y'all lost? Because in my mind, there's no question. And I wonder, as I see clips like this, when I look at James Carville, and I look at Chuck Schumer and I say, why are you scratching your head? Why are you in bewilderment, sir? Because thinking people see clearly why you lost. Were you not paying attention throughout the election cycle? You were out there lying. You were out there telling falsehoods to the American people. You were out there in the media trying to use the mainstream media to convince Americans to vote against their best interests. You lied when you said the border was secure. You lied when you said crime was down. You lied when you said employment numbers were up. You had to revise them later on and correct them and take them right back down. You lied. You lied when you said Joe Biden was competent. We knew in 2020 Joe Biden wasn't competent, but there you were. Advocating for your team, advocating for your party, advocating for your side, advocating against America. That's why we can't believe you now. So you can engage in all of this soul searching. You can ask all the questions you need. You can drink all that liquor behind you, James Carville. But like Justin Timberlake once said, I can't drink you away. No, you ain't going to be able to drink away the guilt that you're going to feel about betraying this country. No, you're not going to be able to drink away that anguish that you feel for leaving that border open, because you are so detached from America that you don't even have empathy. You don't even understand that the very gates of this country that you have left wide open for anyone and everyone to flow through, that could affect your family someday. That could affect somebody you love. You have no empathy for people who have suffered under your decisions. Not only Carville, not only Biden, but Schumer and more. But I do have to admit, y'all, that on this channel, I get a little piece of joy at watching and commentating on them suffering in the chaos that they have created. See, there's a shift that has taken place. Y'all have put that chaos on all of America, but the citizenry rose up against you. Yeah. Of the people, for the people, by the people. You forgot all about it. But those very people have risen up against you and hurled that chaos right back into your lap for you to deal with, you and your despicable party. You and your party who have stood for things that are anti-American. And some people wonder, well, bro, how you gonna stand by the flag? How you gonna be so loyal? My ancestors were part of the establishment of this country. So don't question my loyalty at all, because my people bled and died for what we have here, and we tried our best to save it from the devil. Y'all, let me know what you think about this and James Carville being honest. He might be drunk, but he drunk and honest. And then you got Chuck Schumer being as dishonest as he has ever been in his career in government. That's his way. You got a contrast. You got one who is drunk and honest. You got one who is just going to lie to you till they lay him straight on that cooling board. Y'all let me know what you think about this. I'd love to know your thoughts, and don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share the video so we can get more people involved in the conversation, y'all. And like I always say, always remember and never forget, without the gospel, it's just chops. Until next time, peace.